Hey, everybody. Welcome to 100% Builders. Today, we have Nic Nuyten on the show, who's a senior product designer at Plexus. Plexus is a high growth education technology company that is changing the world by leveraging its student opportunity network to connect millions of students everywhere with real opportunities. Nick, it's so great to have you here today.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for being here, Nick. Nick, we've known you now for a couple of years, and just following you on the internet, it's just crazy how prolific of a creator you are. You're constantly posting, here's a side hack, here's a design, here's a photography. Can you take us through the journey? When did you start making stuff, and how did that get you to where you are today?
Hmm. All right. Yeah, I would say it really started probably around high school. Um, I had this program. It was called Virtual Entrepreneurship Class or something, and I learned about Photoshop and started doing some kind of mock-up web designs. And then I realized this is kind of something I'm really passionate about. And then so I decided to go to college for graphic design. So I did that, and I took some other classes. And then I think it's just kind of my natural human curiosity to want to like see how things work and adopt new things, and just get into all the kinds of things like animation, graphic design, audio. I dabble in it all, so it's just I don't know. I love it.
And, when you were talking about this curiosity to know how things work and that class sort of exposing you to that whole world, I'm sure like that something happened before that, right? Like you're probably tinkering with objects or trying to make something. Like, what happened before that?
Well, if you want to go way back, when I was, I guess, a baby, like kind of around really young, my grandma knew that I would be into some kind of technology or something related because I was always taking things apart and putting them back together. So I don't know, maybe it started when I was, yeah, pretty young, but just always been curious about how things are built, how they work, and how I can kind of build things on my own as well.
How did you go from you're interested in Photoshop, you're majoring in graphic design to winning product and design at a startup? Like, fill in the missing pieces for us?
After college, I started applying for some jobs. The first job I had was a media developer. I didn't have any knowledge of CSS or anything, so I didn't really last very long at that company. So I took that experience and tried to just, fill in the gaps of what I was missing. And then I responded to a Craigslist ad back in 2014 looking for a designer, and it happened to be for the company that I'm working for now. Um, and yeah, I mean, the way we started building product, it's quite an evolution because before it was kind of, they would either the developer or the CEO would tell me this is what they want built. I would go into Fireworks is what I was using at the time. Um, and I would do a mock-up and I would export it as a PDF and hand it to them, and then kind of not really thinking about the functionality or any of that stuff. Um, and then as kind of time passed, I was like, um, this isn't know how the mock-up looked. This isn't what I was thinking. So then I got into documentation, and I learned about prototyping, and then kind of learned about conversion rates, and adoption and user research and all these other things. And it was just kind of like it was kind of like a self-propelled journey to just make great products.
So you had this experience where you end up in this job and you realize, oh, I don't know how to do CSS. And that sort of, in a weird way, that creates this new path for you where after that, and you get this job from looking at Craigslist. And since then, all of these new skills that sort of came your way, you just learn how to figure it out and go about it. Like, what gave you that confidence? Because usually, what people in that situation, what happens is, oh, I don't have this. That means like I won't be able to learn anything, or like I'm only going to stick to things that I know. But you took a completely different route from this experience. What was that about?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely wouldn't say that I didn't have imposter syndrome, which I'm pretty sure everyone kind of has a little bit of that. Um, but I think yeah, it's like I would see all these great products that I was using, and I was like, why aren't ours like that? Why can't ours be like that? And so I kind of just dug deep underneath and was like, oh, so there's like frameworks and there's um, capturing bugs, logging bugs, um, and kind of a bunch of underworking things that I just kind of found out about, I guess, from researching and just kind of backwards engineering the stuff that I was currently using.
Do you remember what were the products that inspired you at the time? Like back in 2014, at your first startup.
Let's see. I mean, at the time, I think it was like LinkedIn because we were a social network as well, or not at the time, but we eventually kind of evolved into one. So it was LinkedIn, um, Twitch was a big one, just kind of like the simplicity. Now it's a little bit more feature heavy. Um, I think Discord. I'm not sure if I think Discord was out at the time too, but yeah, like kind of Discord, Twitch.
Maybe this is a good moment. I'm curious. Most people in tech float between startups every 2, 3, 4 years. Go find the next one. But you responded to a Craigslist ad and have been there now for almost a decade, which is amazing. Maybe this is a good moment to pause and maybe you can explain for everyone listening what is Plexus? What do you do? What do the 7 million people who use your platform from it?
Yeah, so Plexus, we like to call ourselves the first college destination website. So if you need a scholarship, you come to Plexus. If you need tutoring, we offer free tutoring as well. If you need homework help, college help, we have that too. Um, Previously, we did have messaging, but we're reworking that, so we took it down. But we have just all kinds of free resources for students. So we have different workshops, different articles, and a news feed too, where you can kind of see what other students are posting. But yeah, basically building what we wish we had as students that could help us through the journey as well.
So today's there are almost 20,000 like colleges and programs on the other end of that platform and 7 million students who are getting benefits from it. But when you joined in 2014, like, can you paint the picture for us? Like, who was on the team? Where were you working? What was it like to work there? What was it like at the time?
Yeah. So I think it was about a room the size of maybe a little bigger than a bedroom, kind of like an office, very small. Uh, we have kind of maybe 8 chairs, and then there's the wall, and then another little office. I actually have pictures that I can probably show you guys after. So it started out, as kind of one room, and then we expanded and we got a kitchen. And then another expansion happened where we got kind of 2 more offices and then a conference room, which is kind of the current phase. And I actually helped kind of, I guess, product design it in a way because my boss asked me to kind of visualize it. So I did some 3D mock-ups and kind of did the layout of everything, did kind of how the walls and conference room would look. And it turned out pretty close to what I was thinking. But yeah, I've been through kind of several employees who have left and like come and gone. So I think me and a few other people are still kind of the core team that have been there.
Yeah, so you've been in this like very early phase where you guys were just in this like one small room and you had a hand in not only make the company grow where it is today, but also the place where you guys work
Mhm.
have control over that as well. So that must be pretty cool. So how big is the company now?
Let's see. So I think in office, we're still pretty small. I think we have about 2 or 3 developers in house and kind of same size for data and marketing. And then we kind of have some distributed team members as well. And then we also have a good amount of tutors. So I think we're about 50 employees now.
That's awesome. From 8 chairs to 50 employees. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
When when you think about what's kept you there for so many years, like a decade focus, continuing to build, what is that for people listening who are thinking, how do I retain the Knicks of the world for 10 years? What advice do you have for them?
um, I would say to find something you're passionate about that you believe in. and that has just, a mission that's close to your heart. Like for me, I was an average or below average student. I didn't know anything about the college application process or where to start. So being able to build something that'll help people kind of that were in my shoes is just really fulfilling.
We experience that a lot at gym where the people on the other side of the product are doing the role that Urtifa and I were in when we started the company. And it's really rewarding. I can relate to what you're saying. Able to build for your former self.
I mean, that and just having a great team. I love my team that I work with as well.
What are they like? Like what's the vibe at Plexus?
Honestly, we're so the way that our CEO describes us is we're ducks. We're quiet on the surface, but on the bottom we're like paddling. So we're pretty introverted, but like when there are the moments of kind of being able to talk, then when we're having conversations, and we do. But for the most part, we're pretty quiet. We're just kind of heads down working.
So I think the thing that I heard there earlier was, if you're a founder who's listening to this podcast and you want to retain talented people for a long time, it's important to have a really powerful mission that resonates with them. Uh, they're hardworking, so people who care about the mission and are willing to work really hard, and overall, just like a great team who are uh, there to make a meaningful change in the world. So that's pretty awesome. You're talking about how in the early days, the inspiration was looking at LinkedIn, Discord, Twitch, and I think Danny and I we both noticed that you are very up to date with all the new tools are, like signing up for them, trying it out, building side projects with them. Like, what are some tools or companies that inspire you right now to uh, incorporate those things into Plexus?
Well, I don't know if we'd ever have any kind of 3D animation stuff, but I really loved adopting the new Unreal Engine. That was just a game changer for me, coming from like Cinema 4D to being able to just be able to maneuver and create things just like at the touch of a button. Um, I would say right now, Framer is just, it's kind of like Figma, but it's ready to go. I mean, people might disagree with me there, but it's it's definitely changed kind of the way I've been thinking about design too. Um, let's see, another one would be Spline. So Spline is kind of like 3D in the browser too, and it's yeah. So combining Framer and Spline, you have your web, and then you have your 3D, and what used to be rendering and taking time on your computer and like separate applications, you can all do in the browser, and it's just it's pretty incredible.
You've been an early adopter of Jam, of course, but of so many tools, even some like now mainstream Adobe products. Can you talk about some of the tools that you were early to and tools you've seen grow from their early phase to where they are today?
Yeah. Yeah. So I adopted XD while I was on Fireworks. Although Fireworks, that was kind of an older tool, anyways. But I adopted Adobe XD earlier on because I wanted to have more to my designs than kind of just basic hover states and like clicking. And then I heard about Adobe XD and their prototyping, and it can do different devices. Um, and then, eventually, I think it was a few years later, then kind of Figma came out, and I was trying to early adopt that as well. And that's crazy how fast that's grown.
What was it like to use Figma in the early days of the product?
Coming from Adobe XD, it wasn't too bad of a learning curve, but there was definitely, they did things differently. It took me a while to figure out how to do basic things like add an image to a background or do different kind of simple tasks like that. But their knowledge base was incredible too. So that was really helpful. And then also, I would attribute a lot of my growth to design Twitter or Twitter in general, just kind of being plugged into what people are talking about, what's coming out. I think that's kind of how I can stay on top of things. Is just having kind of a feed right there.
What are the top three follows? If someone listening here is like, oh my gosh, I want to be on top of new tools the way Nick is, who should they go follow right now on Twitter?
Uh, oh man, on the spot.
No pressure. You can tell us later too.
Yeah, let's see. I would say There's a guy, Joey Banks. He actually did a bunch of UI kits for Apple and iOS, and they weren't like, he wasn't working for Apple. I think he just kind of did it um, for fun, and then just kind of following kind of what he was posting, and then you'd see someone comment like what they're posting, and it's kind of just like a inception. You like follow one comment thread to another, and then you find a new product. Like, wow.
What I was thinking, as like Nick was talking about, like Twitter is your university. It's the encyclopedia that you're like plugged into, and when these new tools are coming out, you're following these threads and like ending up in these like amazing places where you get to find tools like Framer, Spline, or even Jam. Um, right now, like, are you just curious because you have this unique perspective of being an early adopter? Is there any tool that you're like, it's not big, it's like you don't even know if this is cool or not yet, but you're sort of like checking it out? Like anything out there that we should check out too?
I'll have to get back to you on that one too, but it's definitely probably AI related.
Yes.
Just any kind of things that are doing stuff with stable diffusion. I think it's Runway ML, one of those. I haven't jumped in too much, but it's just, yeah, I was blown away by how easy it is to do things now.
Nick, it's so funny you say that. Like Danny told me about Runway ML today. Um, and that goes directly into my next question, which is like you're seeing like there's a lot of like new generative AI related AI tools popping up, right? What do you think about that as a designer? Have you incorporated anything into your current workflow that you use every day, or just still trying things out?
I've still been trying things out. There was, Framer has this new kind of, type in a prompt and it builds a website. So I saw that they have that. And there's another company, I think it's UI Wizard is how it's pronounced, but it's UI Zard. So I was comparing kind of the two of how they would produce things. And I was like, I don't know if I could use these, but they definitely help conceptually go from like 0 to 1 a lot quicker.
Yeah, totally.
What about, you know, you post a lot of your photography on Twitter and it's so good. Um,
Thank you.
when you see what's now possible with generative AI, how does it make you feel as a creator? Like, do you feel like, oh, the craft is gone? Or do you feel like now there's even more reasons to do analog? Or sort of when you see all this stuff, what do you think?
Yeah, it's kind of like, photography, you have, digitals and you have kind of the purists. Like I'll only shoot film. So I think with this AI thing, there's going to be um, a push to kind of, you shot like this is real, like you shot this. Okay. So maybe that'll get a bit more merit or not as frowned upon, I guess, as AI.
It reminds me of how in like parties, Polaroid cameras are really cool. Like people are like going back to that a little bit. Uh, obviously not on the same level, but you can totally imagine people. Oh, it's what it's a lot like listening to those. I'm trying. I don't think gramophone is the name, but basically where you listen to with the actual like records. You listen to a record instead of like a digital version.
Hmm. Those like audio files are kind of, is that what they're called?
Yeah. And when you're saying that, it reminds me of that. Like, but in terms of photography, like people going back to the original ways to like appear more authentic or appreciate the art a little bit more.
Hmm. I do think though, however, kind of with this new ability to create anything from text, that prompt hacking or just being able to like create a perfect prompt, that's like an art in itself as well.
Yeah. How have you been like learning how to like create great prompts? Like, what is your process, or do you have any, or like do you go? Are there any tools out there that you check out? What does that look like?
Yeah, so kind of just, there's some people on Twitter who will post what they've made and they have the prompt in their comments. But also just kind of trial and error, I think is the best way. And then learning about, if you put like a couple brackets around it, then it's more important, or you can kind of say what you don't want in it.
I have a tip here. So on Leonardo, which is like a Midjourney competitor, but not in Discord, it's got a UI. They have a community feed as images people are creating on Leonardo.
Hmm.
And if you click on any of the images, it will bring up what was the prompt used to generate the image, and also what was the negative prompt, which is like, what should, if the image matches this, redo it. Like, don't make it match this.
Mhm.
By reading those prompts, you start to learn like things you could include too, because it's not human instinct. It's like Behance award winner, photorealistic. It's like words that we as humans would never use to describe an image. You're not walking around a museum going like, "Oh, that looks hyper realistic, shot on Nikon," like model.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. Or like Octane render 18K portrait shot 2, 3.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so similar. So that was kind of what pushed me off of Midjourney was just kind of having to use Discord. So I was using something called Mage.space, which is basically like Midjourney. It's a bit more rough around the edges, but it's in the browser, and I mean, I know Discord's in the browser too, but having to go through that whole process, I thought this was much easier adoption, so I just went with that.
Like it's not a normal thing to like interact with Discord that way to like create your images. And like I remember like trying out Midjourney for the first time on their like free plan. Like, wait, I'm generating these images like in public, and like I'm like there's nothing to be ashamed of about the prompt, but when I'm prompting in public, I'm thinking, are other people watching me? Like, is this prompt really silly? I feel like I'm being judged for my prompt.
Yeah.
Whenever I share screen, because I want to share something that's happening in ChatGPT, um, I'll close the sidebar because it has summarized names of all your chat, and it's so embarrassing.
Oh yeah, that's true. Oh yeah, I think so. ChatGPT is like my daily driver now, especially for copy. Like that's mainly what I use it for. It's just how can I rewrite this or make it sound good? Um, because being a startup, we don't really have any dedicated copywriters or anything, so that's been really helpful and I think increased efficiency and productivity for my designs too.
Can you talk about how, like, what are three things that you do that you're like, now I can't live without? Like this is how you do it.
One case is I will ask ChatGPT to generate me summaries of kind of, um, let's say I want to kind of prove a point about how good design matters and it actually affects business. So I'll kind of ask ChatGPT, can you give me 10 real world examples of how product design or a good onboarding has impacted a business and include percentages and summarize bullet lists or something like that. And then so when I'm doing kind of some documentation, I'll add those. Or if I'm doing, like a flow map in Figma, I'll kind of add those to the side of kind of justifying why these decisions are happening.
That's pretty cool.
Um, let's see. So that was one. Number two is just, kind of writing my thoughts. And I would say, how would you write this for a high schooler? How would you write this for a parent? Give me three variations, give me three more or something, and then, kind of pick from there. Let's see. And then just kind of asking, I've been using, so lately I haven't done it a lot, but I've been asking kind of design scenarios. Like, let's say we have a flow where a user does this or this. What would be the best pattern to use for that, maybe? So that kind of speeds up my thinking process. Um, but yeah, so I think Chat GPT, I think I've been using it every day almost. And I still have to apply the plus subscription that I got.
That's really cool. That you're taking these. So you have like in a way you did incorporate like AI tool in your like daily process right now, and you sort of like can go back like going back to what you're saying about, hey, like what is the best like workflow and like how to back it up with like research and like or like mental models, I'm guessing, and then ChatGPT sort of spitting that out. That's a game changer where you would have to have, especially for like nimble teams like y'all's, where you don't really have the resources to have like a separate UX researcher or like a copywriter. Like and everything needs to be done by you or some other few people. it's a game changer, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, to that point, I think I would say I'm pretty scrappy when it comes to getting things done. And so is our team. We kind of find the best way with the least amount of resources.
I have a question.
Hmm.
Something you said just struck me as you're doing this differently than everyone else I know, which is I've never heard someone say, hey, I like to justify the why in our Figmas. Um, where does that come from? How do you think about working with engineers or with your team? Like, yeah, can you tell us more about how you collaborate with your team and why you're justifying decisions and how you do that?
Yeah, so I think, yeah, like I said, we're a small team, and sometimes I'll get kind of like a request from the top to do something, and let's say there's a flow, um, and I just want to simplify it, make it less steps, and so it's like, time to value. So I'll use time to value for example. Let's say our sign up process is 20 steps and our competitor is a little bit lower. So I'd kind of show their flows and our flows, and I'd have real world stats of time to value and how that um, affects, the product. And I think it also stems from just kind of, I don't want to sound cocky, but just me being kind of the only expert in the product design aspect. Since I put a lot of kind of learning and just being a sponge into this area. So I kind of like to give a little bit of knowledge to everyone else of the why.
Now that so when you started, it was like you're the junior designer on the team. And now there are junior designers that you're helping bring up. What what advice do you hear yourself giving to junior designers over and over and over again? Like, what do you think is really important that junior designers know?
No matter how bad you think your work is, share it because it'll probably just keep getting better and better, and you'll have kind of this log of it. Constantly ask questions, be curious. Um, the more questions and the more curious you are, I think that will be to the benefit of um, your tool set as you kind of grow.
That's super inspiring. Are there any fun like books, podcasts, or people you want to shout out that influence or inspire you?
Okay, so I did kind of remember some Twitter accounts that I was following early on. I think one was MDS, which is Matt Smith. I think that's his last name. He does a design course called Shift Nudge. I didn't actually participate in the course, but he shared a lot of free information that was plenty good, anyways. Another one was a design course. Um, in terms of podcasts, I can't think of like one off the top of my head, but I think it was just any kind of indie hackers podcasts, just because there's just such a range of different types of projects and products on there. Another one that was really big is Product Hunt. So I think that kind of helps me adopt new technology early because they launch it there, um, and it's getting out into the wild for the first time sometimes. Um, I'm trying to remember how exactly I found out about Jam. I don't think it was Product Hunt. Um, I'm pretty sure it was through some Twitter comment inception thread.
I think so too. I think when we chatted like 2 years ago, I think you told me that you found out like a Twitter account that you follow tweeted about it. I don't remember exactly whose account. I don't think you remembered it either back then. But that's how you learned about it.
Before we wrap, I'm dying to ask. I've never met someone who is working at a job they got through Craigslist. Is this the most serendipitous internet stranger interaction you've had, or are there others?
Besides my current job and then us, I would say not that I can think of. No.
Okay, so just the job through Craigslist.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Nick, I'm excited to see like what you continue to build at Plexus and the tools that you continue to share with us and the side projects you continue to build on your own. It was great having you on the pod. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Yeah.
It was so awesome. Thank you, Nick.
Yeah. Thank you guys.